Welcome to an edition of Boxing Info. I'm your host, The Islander, and this is the week of November 13th. Both recap as well as preview show. Real quick, let's go through the fights from last weekend, and there was some very good results as well as some interesting outcomes that we're looking at. Let's start with the HBO card, in which Zab Judah took on Lucas-Mathysse in a fight that was really seen as possibly a crossroads fight, at least from my standpoint, because Judah, before the fight I wouldn't have said this, but now I'm definitely entrenched in this, has seen better days, and he was returning to the 140-pound weight division, which he once dominated for a while, until he ran into Costa Tszyu, and was looking to make a splash in this division, going against one of the young guns, like Devin Alexander or Timothy Bradley, or whomever, Amir Khan, Marcus Maidana. And Lucas-Mathysse comes into this fight with basically 25 knockouts and 27 wins, and for the most part it wasn't the greatest fight at all. I thought Judah had racked up some early rounds, almost reminiscent. This is almost reminiscent in a way to the Devin Alexander Koltenic fight, in which the aggressor finished the fight stronger. Mathysse scored a knockdown in the 10th round and had Judah hanging on and running for dear life in the 11th and 12th. But you can't erase what was done earlier, and I know. Let's put it this way: if Mathysse was given the decision, nobody would be complaining. So I think 1 point either way is fine by me, and I thought that Judah had probably done enough in the early rounds to get the nod, especially fighting in New Jersey, right across the river from Brooklyn. But it was. I didn't think it was that. He did not look sharp. He looked horrendous. Again, it looked like there was some type of stamina problem. But then again, if you're running from a guy like Mathysse for as long as he was, or keeping away from him, you're going to run into those issues. Kind of a disappointment to me, because I thought that one of them would score a spectacular knockout, which didn't happen. Robert Guerrero scored a 10-round decision over Vincent Escobedo on the undercard as he keeps trudging along. I want to see if there's something else down the list that I didn't. Oh yes, I believe the WBC Junior Flyweight title changed hands. I've only gotten to see parts of this on YouTube and other free video uploads, in which Omar Nino was fighting, and I did not know this, a rematch against countryman Gilberto Quebas in Merida, Mexico. Second defense of Nino's second reign, and he was expected to win this fight easy. He got knocked down a couple of times, and Quebas scored an upset. I mean, this guy's record is 34 wins, 20 losses, and 4 draws, and now he's the WBC Junior Flyweight champion. He had beaten Nino when Nino was 14-0. I believe he stopped him in the 5th round. But this guy has lost fights to Eric Morel, Pangla Klek, Wanjan Kam. He's just been, basically all over the board, and finally became a world champion the other night. Pretty much unbelievable. And that brought us to the card on Showtime, in which Glenn Johnson opens up his return to 168 pounds, although he was only there briefly to begin with an 8th round stoppage of Alan Green, in which Green, again, he can talk the talk and fails to walk the walk. I thought Johnson looked fantastic. You ever wondered, and just me thinking out loud, I know Showtime may have touched on this, why does Bernard Hopkins never mention getting into the ring with Glenn Johnson again? Because Hopkins dominated Johnson when Johnson was a greenhorn, basically. Why won't Hopkins talk about getting in the ring with Johnson ever again? Because to me, Johnson looks as fresh or fresher than Hopkins does, even in previous years. As far as being 40 and over, I mean, Johnson looks just as good at 40 as Hopkins did. But in any event, a very good, strong performance. Green, again, if he's not looking at his feet, he's bending over, getting hit in the head, and then complaining about it. And again, when he went to bend over, he got caught a right hand, and down he went in the 8th round. Instead of trying to collect himself, get to his feet, he's arguing with the referee, and gets himself counted out. That's it for him. I mean, in my book, Green, any meaningful fights, he's going to have to take the circuit like Peter Manfredo's done, and basically, work off TV and do something else. For Johnson, I mean, this catapults him into the semifinals, which I thought this tournament was all but done. and I'm pretty sure that I didn't really listen that closely to the way it was going to go down, but I'm pretty sure Johnson, I think, gets the winner of Ward against the Scorpion there, and those two winners are going to, I guess, meet up with the Frosh Abraham winner, if I'm not mistaken. Again, this is going to take some time because, you know, Ward's got to take care of, I don't know why I can't remember his name now. Guy who won Contenders, the Scorpion. My memory is not what it used to be, but in any event, you know, the whole thing's a mess. I've said this before. I'll say it again. The whole tournament's a mess, but it was a very good win for Glenn Johnson. And the main event, Juan Manuel Lopez scores an 8th round technical knockout over Rafael Marquez, who failed to come out for the 9th round. This may not be exactly the fight of the year, but as far as I'm concerned, it more than lived up to my expectations. I did not expect this to be back and forth the way it was. I did not expect Marquez to be as competitive as he was. And I got to give hats off to both of them. And if they do, I'd call for a rematch of this fight. Just like, you know, Marquez says he wants a rematch, and Lopez says he's open to it. I'd pay to see it again when Marquez is totally healthy. He doesn't have a shoulder injury, or his thumb hasn't been slammed in the car door, any of that stuff, to get this on. Because one of you guys, I don't know if it was Hitman Conan or Gil, or one of you guys mentioned that basically it was Lopez's size that actually kept him in this fight, because he's naturally the bigger guy, and Marquez is naturally a smaller guy. You know, he sent Marquez really in the 3rd round, where I was thinking he's going down, but he didn't even have to grab the ropes to hold up, so he was lucky. But that left hook he hit Lopez with in the 4th round. You know, Tony Weeks is horrendous for stopping action when one fighter's hurt and the other fighter has the upper hand. Lopez was hurt when he basically warned him about the I was going to say rabbit punches, but it was really pushing down on Marquez's head, and gave him ample time to recover. This is the same thing. Tony Weeks was the referee, and I remember, Avellino, you mentioned this on the channel comments today. Tony Weeks was the referee of the first Jose Luis Castillo-Diego Corrales fight, where he let him have extra time for spitting out his mouthpiece, instead of just kicking the thing out of the ring and saying, fight on, because Corrales was about to get knocked out when that happened. And I'm not going to say that Lopez was about to be knocked out, but he was in serious trouble where he had stopped punching and his eyes looked glassy to me. And he was able to recover and start pounding Marquez again. You know, Marquez, to his credit, absorbed some tremendous punches and stayed on his feet. I don't know if the added weight helped him, and the added weight has taken a little bit off of Lopez's shots from 122 to 126, but some of the shots he took were incredible, and I thought it was a very good back and forth action fight. And I've got to ask yourself this. Ask myself, ask you guys this. Why is it that Showtime puts on the best competitive fights? And when I say competitive, I don't mean best quality fights, better quality, better competitiveness fights. Way better than HBO does. Yet Mathysse and Judah was, you know, fairly even, but it was almost like a who cares kind of a thing when you look at these guys swinging for the fences and you know, ripping short, hard shots that, you know, are meant to end the fight on every punch. So I ask myself, why is it? And it's because Showtime's not afraid to get guys fighting that don't speak English. And if you notice, almost all of HBO's fights have at least one guy that speaks English. It's very rare that you see them with two guys that don't speak English anymore. Very rare. Not that that has any, but I'm talking, when I say quality also of fights, I'm talking about back and forth action, high contact. I'm not talking about Pernell Whitaker playing checkers and chess with Buddy McGirt. I mean, that's high quality boxing, hitting without getting hit. This is high quality entertainment. And for my part, Showtime puts on the better entertaining fights than HBO does. That's neither here nor there. I would like to see a rematch between these two. That's the results. And now we're going to go to the preview for this week, in which I want to talk in depth about 24/7 Pacquiao-Margarito, as well as the fight itself, and just a tad about the undercard. Because one of the things I didn't cover was that Kelly Pavlik backed out of his fight on the undercard. He hurt himself doing something. I don't know what it was. But let me see what's going on. November 6th, 13, 12. Telefutura and Telemundo have a couple of fights on Thursday night. Telefutura is coming from Hidalgo, Texas. Omar Figueroa is taking on Arturo Quintero, 8-round lightweight. It's a bunch of prospects, basically. I'm not going to cover this. Mexico City, Telemundo has Jesus Ruiz fighting Julio Ler, 12-round bantamweight fight. A couple of other fights with some prospects on that card, too. Peter Manfredo's fighting in Lincoln, Rhode Island. What else is new? On anysportstv.com. If you want to pay them $5 or whatever it costs to watch it, I don't know. Card going on in Tampa, Ontario, California, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Manchester, England on the 13th. David Haye's taking on Audley Harrison in the second title defense of his piece of crap WBA illegitimate heavyweight championship that he's got. Conventional wisdom would tell you that David Haye is going to whack out Audley Harrison. That's what conventional wisdom would tell you. But the theme of this week's show is live underdogs. Yes, you heard it. Live underdogs. What do I mean by this? Okay. Audley Harrison is getting his one and only chance at the pie. One and only chance in the basket. I know you guys, this is a little bit different, but when my parents kind of discouraged me from trying to do boxing and kind of let me kind of go on a path in my teens towards tennis, they have a thing in tennis called the one slam wonder. And what they say is it's a person who gets one look at one of those Grand Slam titles, like the Australian Open, the French Open, the Wimbledon, or the US Open. The basket opens once, they either reach in and grab it, or it shuts, and they never get another chance at it again. This is Audley Harrison. This is his one chance to become the one slam wonder. The only chance, I promise you. Even if this fight's a war, his training and his attitude in the past has let everybody down. I thought coming out of the 2000 Olympics that he would be something else. His size, his his above average speed, his chin was questionable, and obviously all of you in the UK know what happened. That Michael Sprott knockout was like one of the knockouts of the century that he suffered. I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you, Audley, I'm not. It's just there's a lot of hype around this guy, and he has failed miserably. This is his one chance. I would expect, like I said, conventional wisdom, that David Haye would win this fight, either by decision or by a mid to late round stoppage. But then again, what happens if Audley Harrison puts in the kind of effort that Antonio Margarito is going to put in against Pacquiao, where he's in the absolute best shape of his life, he has to redeem himself in his mind, he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's ready. He's got power, folks. David Haye's chin is just as questionable as Harrison's, in my opinion. Upset? Maybe, but I wouldn't bet on it. I'll go with Haye to squeak by, just because his whole thing in life is his whole ambition in life is to wake up every morning, bark at the Klitschko's, and then turn tail and run when they're ready to slap him around. That's his whole ambition in life. So he's got the motivation to keep on doing that, to keep amusing people with that. So I'm going to go with Haye to get by. I won't be surprised if Harrison wins the fight by some miracle, and I don't even think it's really going to be that big of a miracle. He hits Haye on the chin, and Haye goes, you heard it here first. But then again, Haye hits him on the chin and goes, this is the first one. This fight may come down to the first one that lands first, which fighter lands first, but more importantly, it's going to come down to which boxer can take the other guy's shots better. And to me, Haye has shown in the past to be more durable than Harrison. All right, enough of that. That brings us to Arlington, Texas, the big pay-per-view extravaganza. All right, a couple of fights on the undercard that have some interest, and one of them is Cuban sensation Guillermo Rigondeaux taking on Ricardo Cordoba for the vacant WBA interim junior featherweight title. Both of these guys, good prospects, and if I'm not mistaken, I forgot who Cordoba was in a war recently, and he's a very good prospect. I think this is more to showcase Rigondeaux. Toss-up fight, I would expect Rigondeaux to get by, but Cordoba's tough. Don't sleep on him. I've seen him before. Brandon Rios, who's been shooting off his mouth at Manny Pacquiao during the HBO 24/7, is taking on Omri Lothar in a 10-round junior welterweight fight. Rios by a stoppage. I mean, I could be wrong, but... And Mike Jones of the Mid-Atlantic area, Philadelphia, I believe, welterweight contender, is taking on Jesus Soto Karass. The winner is slated to fight Kell Brook of Great Britain for the vacant WBO title that Pacquiao is supposedly vacating to go up in weight to fight Margarito. This is a toss-up fight. It's a very dangerous fight for Jones because Karass is tough. We've all seen him before. I think that Jones might have a little bit more polish. The people in the UK are excited about a fight between Kell Brook and Jones, thinking that Kell Brook's going to whack Jones or outbox Jones and whack him out. Between the three of them, any combination could beat the other one, I think, until I'm shown something different. Kell Brook has looked nice against the competition he's been in with. So has Jones. Karass has been in tough with more people than either one of them. So I'm going to tell you this is a toss-up. Conventional wisdom again would tell you that this is to showcase Jones and get him into that title shot against Kell Brook. And I'm telling you that Karass, this is just like Audley, Harrison, and Margarito. It's the last chance. Maybe not, but probably the last chance for him. And that brings us to the main event, Manny Pacquiao versus Antonio Margarito. Listen, 24/7, what's it about? Alright, the third one's aired since this show, since my last show. And all I'm gonna say about this is, it's not made to give us a real good idea of how the fighter's going to perform on fight night. For the life of us, we would have thought Shane Mosley was going to win more than 2 rounds off of Floyd Mayweather, judging by 24/7, wouldn't we? It's not about that. It's about selling tickets and selling pay-per-views for the fight is what it's about. I told you in my last show, the first episode of 24/7 is always the best one. The second, third, and fourth are filled with fluff. And, you know, it's great that Margarito's going to birthday parties at Pops Garcia's house. It's great that Garcia's kind of a philanthropist, you know, basically getting kids off the street. That's all great. It's great that, you know, Pacquiao there, you know, his wife, and he's got a mansion now, so they're not 50 people packed into a 2-bedroom apartment. I mean, that's all fine and dandy. The thing is that they haven't shown us Pacquiao sparring, and some of you have alluded to the fact that he got knocked down or hurt severely by Amir Khan in training. You know, him being on the Jimmy Kimmel show, that's great and all, and also, and just recently on 60 Minutes they did a story on him on CBS. Again, my prediction, I'm just going to go straight up, and I'll explain why. Pacquiao is going to win the numbers game. Whether he wins the fight or loses the fight, he's going to win the numbers game. What does that mean? He's going to score more punches, throw more punches, land more punches, and at a higher connect percent probably. There ain't no doubt. Whether he wins, loses, or draws, that's what's going to happen. Now, the downside. This is the first time, at least that we here in America are going to see a guy who's really big, really strong, and really determined against everything thrown at him to rough Pacquiao up. I know Hatton tried to do it, but understand, Hatton isn't one fraction as durable as Margarito is. The other thing is, Hatton doesn't possess the ability, both power-wise and the ability to deliver that power, like Margarito does. Because Margarito is going to take 5, 6, 7, 8 shots to land one. Not on the chin, not on the belly, on the elbows, on the arms, on the shoulders, on the neck, on the ear, wherever he can. He doesn't cherry pick, and he's not very, Margarito is not, should I say, discriminating about where he lands shots. If it's the elbows, it's the elbows. What I'm telling you is, if Pacquiao absorbs the kind of punishment that Miguel Cotto dished out to him, and remember, he had his ear torn partly off, he had a big tear in his ear. If he takes the kind of punishment that Cotto delivered, he's going to be in big trouble. Because Margarito is not going to wind down like Cotto did and go into retreat mode. My prediction is Pacquiao by a clear-cut decision, possibly a stoppage on cuts, possibly a corner stoppage. or it's Margarito by a stoppage and no other way. No other way. Margarito is not getting a decision over Pacquiao. Ain't happening. But I've said this before and I'll say it again. The same stage in his career, Roberto Duran was written off by everybody. Written off. And I believe to, I don't know if it was Above Beneath or one of you guys in the Bronx, or in New York, that wrote me that says you still have the Sports Illustrated cover. I believe it says Redemption Roberto on that cover. And I still haven't looked it up to see. I'm just going by memory now. This is what Margarito's after, and it is very, very dangerous. I really believe in my heart that Pacquiao and Roach are not taking this fight seriously. I really believe that, and I believe it could be his downfall. Pure skill will take you a long way, and Pacquiao has this much skill, whereas Margarito's somewhere in the medium. There is no debate in that, no disputing that. The better all-around boxer is Pacquiao. The better technician all-around is Pacquiao. There's no two ways about that. But what you cannot measure is a man's determination and his will to win and his will to clear his name and his will to show the world you were wrong about me. It's the number one thing that motivates me. Motivates me more than money or anything else is that I always want to tell my opponents or anybody else, I told you so. You were wrong. And I got you. Anybody I play tennis or golf or whatever against, you sold me short and now you're paying for it. And maybe that's why I gravitate to Margarito so much, because I feel when his fighting style is as honest as you can, Pacquiao's is too. Pacquiao is becoming more of a boxer, and it's not so much safety first, but, you know, he could have engaged Clottey, tried to engage Clottey a little bit more. He could have engaged Cotto a little bit more, but you know what? He got the job done. I mean, it's not the same way it's not the same way Margarito approached Cotto and Clottey, was it? But he didn't get hurt. Margarito broke his hand against Clottey, you know, and hence the two different styles. My thing is, you're probably asking, you know, you just said last week that Cotto at 50 or 70% should be able to beat Margarito. That's based on a couple of different things. That Margarito, the beatings that he has taken at the hands of Clottey and Cotto and Mosley, and the way he looked putrid in his last fight, is going to be the norm now. But Roberto Duran looked horrendous against Sugar Ray Leonard in their rematch in New Orleans. Looked horrendous against Nino Gonzalez. Looked horrendous against Luigi Mancillo. Looked horrendous against Wilfred Benitez, and looked even worse against Kirkland Lang, who's a nobody. But when it came time to fight Pipino Cuevas, he turned it all around. And this is a man who had 70-something fights at the time. And when it came time to fight Davey Moore, he kept on going in that direction. So if he can do it, Margarito definitely can do it. Margarito hasn't been in as many fights as Roberto Duran was. Margarito also doesn't. I shouldn't be comparing the two because you can't. Margarito is not even. You can't even hold a candle to Roberto Duran's career. It's not. They're not even the same. We're talking all-time great. We're talking about, you know, a very good fighter from right now. I'm not comparing them. You know, don't get excited and start writing comments. How can you compare? I'm not doing that. I'm comparing the situations. I worry about Pacquiao. I worry that, again, you know, going and campaigning for Harry Reid, you know, people are saying, how do you like that? You know, I don't think he knows Harry Reid from Hitler, to be honest with you. Bob Arum made him do that. You know, and Bob Arum, as smart as a man as he is, doesn't realize that Harry Reid, Bob Arum, you have to understand, used to be an attorney and worked for John F. Kennedy. And John F. Kennedy is rolling in his grave as if he's on a rotisserie wheel at the likes of Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi. So Arum's doing himself a disservice by aligning Pacquiao with these scrubs, basically. But he took time out of his training to do this. I mean, politics right now politics does not generate 8-figure paydays for Pacquiao. And I know he's rich, but the distractions, I think they're overplaying them. And I think that Roach and Ariza are really just trying to sell tickets, sell more interest in the fight is what I think they're doing. But I think at some levels there isn't, you know, definitely a concern. A lot of you have been out to see, you know, either know people who have been out to see Pacquiao training, and I understand a lot of his training's been closed off. He doesn't look the same. I mean, it's easy for a guy who's, and to me, again, even in episode 3 of 24/7, he looks better than he did before, because, I mean, I think it's all just the way they make it up with the cameras, but his body looks softer than it did when he used to do this, before he fought Morales or before he fought, Marquez. His body doesn't look the same anymore. It looks very soft in the middle to me. Soft compared to what it was. Not soft like Butterbean, for instance. I'm not saying that. I think Margarito's a live underdog. I mean, I could be wrong. I wouldn't bet that he's going to win the fight because I don't think he's going to, but it's like Joe Frazier said, it's like a truck hitting a Volkswagen. Eventually the Volkswagen's going to go away, and one of these fights, they're going to bite off more than they can chew. And this ain't Cotto. I mean, I wouldn't compare Cotto to Margarito or Clottey to Margarito. It's a whole different animal. I mean, he's the most dangerous person that Pacquiao has ever faced, bar none. Bar none. Because nobody, again, has the tenacity to take 5 shots just to land one on the elbow or the hip or the ribs or whatever. Like I said, I stick by Pacquiao's going to win the numbers game. He'll be ahead if he loses the fight by a knockout, he'll be way ahead on the scorecards. If he lasts the distance, or if he goes the distance, he'll win a unanimous decision going away like 118 to 110 or something like that. And Margarito, I'm willing to bet though that he is not going to get through this fight, Pacquiao, unscathed. There's going to be anxious moments in this fight. My advice to him is do not lay on the ropes and do what you said to Cotto, like, come on, hit me as hard as you can. Not a good idea against Margarito. Not a good idea at all. Because him hitting you on the arms and Cotto hitting you on the arms are 2 entirely different things. Let's hope that this is a good fight. Let's hope it's a clean fight. Let's hope there's no controversy. And let's hope the HBO folks don't mention the hand wrap thing more than 250 times. Because that's my limit before I'm actually going to start vomiting. I mean, they make me vomit to begin with because they're so putrid at what they do. But they're the ones that started this. Golden Showers Promotions is behind the whole thing. And if you want me to take a real quick lesson, because those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I've had this conversation with many of you before that don't believe me. In 2008, and this is going to wrap up the video, in 2008, basically, Cotto was undefeated. De La Hoya said he was going to retire after 3 fights. He was going to fight Stevie Forbes for free for all of us on HBO. Had his eye socket broken by Stevie Forbes. Won a unanimous decision. They signed to fight Mayweather in September, and he was going to have a grand finale fight in December. Well, Mayweather went ahead and did the chicken walk on him. Not that he was afraid, it's that Mayweather didn't want to play second fiddle to Oscar for a second time, and he knew that Oscar was going to make more money than him again, because nobody makes more money against Oscar De La Hoya. It's just a fact. No matter. And for all you Mayweather nut huggers, don't even respond. I'm just going to delete your comments. You're too gay for me to even respond to, because you don't even realize De La Hoya is the real cash cow. Mayweather's a cheap imitation. All right, bronze doesn't equal gold. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, Mayweather backs out. Margarito and Cotto go at it, and the idea is this: De La Hoya scraps the September fight. He's going to fight an undefeated Cotto at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. It's going to be a massive extravaganza, massive pay-per-view, massive live attendance, just like this fight. And he's going to ride off into the sunset because he's going to beat one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, outbox him, and then retire on that note. Well, we all know what happens. Margarito messes up Cotto. Margarito calls out De La Hoya. De La Hoya just snubs his nose at him. We can't sell that fight. It's garbage. We don't. He goes to the next plan C, which is Pacquiao, gets the living shit beat out of him, and then basically lays low for about 2 months. Well, basically, HBO and Golden Boy team together, because they did the 2 of them a gay together, okay, team together, and force Margarito into fighting Mosley, who's not even ranked by the WBA. Alright, stage 2 of this is, Margarito's people and the Goosens are trying to put together a rematch between Paul Williams and Margarito. HBO says, we'll give you $2 million for that fight. They're like, fuck off. It's worth more than, it's worth more than that. We put on a good show the first time. Basically, the Margarito people say, no way. They're pigeonholed into fighting Mosley because HBO's going to offer the most money for Mosley. They don't even want the fight. This whole hand wrap shit comes into play, which is a bigger deal than it really is. They made a way bigger deal about this than it really is. He didn't go into the ring with the hand wraps. Nobody can prove he did before, because what you're saying is if he did, then the New York State Athletic Commission sucks shit through a straw. The New Jersey State Athletic Commission sucks shit through a straw. Wherever else he's fought, Texas, they all sucked shit through, because they all let Paqcuiao put those things in his hand wraps and didn't say anything about it. So what you're saying is, because California, a bankrupt state, because they're incompetent, and the commissioners allowed Paqcuiao to wrap his hands with those stupid, maxi pads in there, that basically every other commission at New York, New Jersey, Florida, wherever he's fought, they're all incompetent too, because they let it happen too. You're all wrong about this. You're wrong. And it's my hope, and I'm sorry for you Pacquiao fans, it's my hope Freddie Roach sits there while his hands are clean, watches them be wrapped, and then he raises the kind of welts on Pacquiao that he raised on Cotto, because I want this shit to stop. And let me tell you what's going to happen, the fallout from this. It'll be miserable if Margarito wins the fight for boxing, because we'll never get the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. Mayweather will say, "Dad, I told you so." The one guy I ducked 6 or 7 years ago for $8 million beat the guy that I'm ducking now. So this is absolutely a waste of my time. That's what he's going to say. When Pacquiao, if he wins, can't make a fight with Mayweather, he's going to fight a rematch with Cotto to unify those two titles at 154. I know he said this is a one-shot deal, but there's a hidden agenda. If Margarito wins the fight, they're going to sell a rematch with Cotto to unify those two titles, to settle the score. Was the hand wraps what did it in Cotto the first time? It'll be the biggest sell of all time. Or Mayweather's going to come off his perch and say, "I'll fight Margarito now. By golly, I will." And he'll fight him just like he did Carlos Baldomir, where his testicles shrink to about the size of this cuticle on my pinky. That's Mayweather's testicles right there. That's if he even gets to fight again and he doesn't end up in prison. So that's going to be it for this show. A little bit more animated, but we'll be back next week to recap. And that'll do it. Stay with me.